Awesome. So this is our tracker here. You know, we went through the 20 question framework that is complete. I was looking over it again briefly today. We have a little bit of blogging fundamentals, but we're going to get deeper today. A little bit of website copy to do. So let's go ahead and jump right in here. So today you need to get an understanding of how to format and structure a blog post, especially for mobile. You always want to assume that somebody's reading on their phone. They may be reading it on a laptop, they may be reading on a desktop, but for the writing perspective, you always want to write short paragraphs, like one sentence, two sentence paragraphs. And then you need to understand the basics of search engine optimization to drive organic traffic to those blogs. Now, part of writing those blogs is going to be crafting compelling headlines. And so we're going to look at a few blogs on my website today so you can see how to create the best headlines possible, because the headline is the thing that gets people to click. So if the headline isn't good, then they're not even going to read the rest of the blog. So I know it's a short piece of copy. The headline could be like 7 words, but you really should take time to write out like 5 to 10 different headlines and then pick which one within 5 seconds you think is going to perform the best based on just looking at it and glimpsing at it real quick. So we'll go through that today. And then you'll learn how to create engaging introductions and conclusions. And then we have to talk about incorporating calls to action. So let's go over here to my website. And I was looking back here to see some of the most popular blogs on the website that have been engaging, that get people to book a call or to book an appointment through the email scheduler. Either way, the whole goal is to get somebody to take action. So we're going to go to some of these older blogs actually that are driving website traffic. Another thing you should know with SEO right off the bat is that it's going to take time to drive that traffic. So I've posted blogs, last year, and it takes 3 to 6 months on average to get people to actually view that traffic in the search engine, okay? Because we talked a little bit about how Google has these crawlers, and they're basically these miniature robots that are looking for content on social media to see what the best type of content is so that they can rank it in the search engine for a particular keyword. So this is a blog that did really well on my site, The Thought Economy, Cultivating Deep Thought in Nature to Grow Your Business, okay? So I literally came up with this topic while I was in a cabin in the woods. But the reason that you want to use creativity in these blogs is because in the age of AI, so much content sounds just alike. And if you can differentiate yourself, you can use a captivating story, use adjectives, talk a little bit about your life and what you're experiencing or what your client is experiencing, then those blogs are going to feel like real stories. They're going to feel like content that isn't fluffy, just saying the same thing over and over. It's going to feel like, hey, this person actually cares about the content they create and put out. So the thought economy, cultivating deep thought in nature to grow your business. So the whole goal with this was like, I wanted to provoke curiosity with this headline. I wanted people to be like, huh, the thought economy, I've never heard of that. And to look at it like, nature to grow my business, how does that work? So that's the psychology behind why I chose that headline. In blog writing, copywriting, any type of writing you do online, the main goal is to get someone to click right away. And so you want to use psychology frameworks like curiosity. Curiosity is a top psychology framework. A lot of people like to use fear. I'm not as big on fear. I'd much rather provoke some sort of curiosity to get people interested rather than fear-based blog writing, fear-based copywriting and marketing, okay? And so I'm just going to read this to you so you can see how it's written. In today's fast-paced and constantly connected world, cultivating deep thought has become rare and a valuable commodity. It's in the realm of introspection, reflection that great ideas are born, innovative solutions are found, and businesses can thrive. In this blog, we're going to explore the concept of the thought economy and how immersing yourself in nature can be a powerful catalyst for cultivating deep thought and driving business growth. So as you can see, this intro is straight to the point. Like I was talking about these short paragraphs, this is literally one sentence, one sentence, one sentence. Yes, we're looking at it on the laptop, but most people are typically going to be looking at this on their phone. That's just the way we do things in blog writing. Even when you turn in client copy, especially with blogs, if it's just like a bunch of paragraphs that are pushed together, the client is going to be like, hey, can you break this up? This is just like a rule of thumb when it comes to digital writing in the online arena, okay? And so we get into the power of deep thought, super simple, straight to the point. I also want to emphasize the fact that this blog, I didn't necessarily look for search engine optimization. I was more so writing this blog from a nurturing standpoint. The next blog we go over can be more of a SEO topic, but I like to go through and do like 50% SEO, then 50% nurturing, because it's really important to nurture that human side, to nurture the storytelling side, because it's one thing to write content for robots and to hope it ranks in the search engine. But, just because it ranks in the search engine doesn't mean your client is going to get sales. It doesn't mean that you're going to get sales. So you do have to have that careful balance of caring what the other person thinks and wants to hear about behind the screen, and really getting the blog to stand out in their mind so they can think, wow, I've never even heard this perspective before. So the power of deep thought. Deep thought goes beyond surface level thinking and embraces a state of introspection, analysis, and synthesis. It involves stepping back from everyday life's constant noise and distractions to engage in focused reflection and contemplation. This level of thought allows us to explore new perspectives, uncover hidden insights, make connections that may not be immediately apparent. In the context of business, deep thought can lead to innovative ideas, strategic decisions, and the development of a unique competitive advantage. Again, now my audience with this blog is always going to be entrepreneurs, okay? Most of the time, my audience is some type of finance, real estate, or small business owner. And so at the end of the day, their whole goal is to grow their business. But the psychology behind it is, hey, I want you to see how valuable having well-written stories are for your business and what it looks like when you actually have a blog that's written extremely well. That can be the same approach that you take when you create your portfolio, especially these next 2 weeks where you're going to be writing a few portfolio pieces. Make it with the thought in mind that you're writing for your ideal client already, and their goal is always going to be to drive traffic to their business. And you have to show them why your unique selling proposition, those things in the 20 question framework that made you unique, that make you interested in freelance writing and education and storytelling. Make sure to come up with topics that reflect that so that it makes sense from a marketing and sales perspective, okay? And so this level of thought allows us to explore new perspectives, uncover hidden insights, and make connections that may not be immediately apparent. We read that one. I remember a brief off-grid mountain trip I took earlier in the year with my family. We had no internet connection for days, and the majesty and beauty of the mountain lake gave me space to identify gaps in my business, relax, spend quality time with family while recuperating my brain to see innovation and creativity everywhere. Beyond the initial annoyance of not being able to check your phone, you'll soon realize the phone doesn't hold the wealth of information. Instead, you do. Pause. That's super thought-provoking. I basically just serve them this platter like, hey, I know you think that you need to be on your phone all day in the age of AI, but listen, you need to be in nature somewhere, thinking about your business, thinking about your family, thinking about your life, having visionary time. And as you can see, this was literally me just remembering a trip that I took. It was actually, I think it was 2 years ago I took this trip and wrote the blog shortly after. And so you can tell, hey, this is an actual experience she had. That's going to be the key way to show people, hey, I'm not just using AI. You may want to use AI for brainstorming and things like that. But at the end of the day, you do need to embed actual real stories into the blogs just like this, okay? And so now we're talking about the thought economy. And of course, we have to have images, a few websites you can use. You're going to write these down. Pexels.com, Pexel.com, Pexels. And then you can also use Nappy.co, Nappy.co. And if you use WordPress, these images will already be embedded, see Pexels.com. But if you use a different website host, then you're going to have to get the images from somewhere else. So that's one of the benefits to WordPress, okay? And so the thought economy refers to the increasing value placed on deep thought in today's knowledge-driven society. This is basically a term I just came up with, okay? A lot of people were talking about the gig economy, gig workers, and I was like, I'm gonna call this the thought economy, okay? As businesses strive to differentiate themselves and stay ahead of the competition, the ability to cultivate deep thought becomes a valuable asset. In this economy, businesses that prioritize and encourage deep thought among their employees have a competitive advantage. They can tap into the collective wisdom and creativity of their team members, fostering innovation and driving business growth. Again, I'm not an HR firm, but I understand that CEOs have teammates that they're looking after and that are a part of their enterprise. And so I'm going to speak to that point a bit, even though I'm not in HR, that's not necessarily my niche, but I'm empathizing with who my ideal client is, thinking about, hey, they're also looking out for their employees as well as they're thinking about growing their business and marketing. So that gets them to think about all of these things that are in play when they want to hire a content copywriter. So from a marketing perspective, and this is a great marketing lesson too, you always want to bring in the whole perspective of why they should invest, whether you're writing for yourself and your business or you're writing for a client's business, okay? So this is a great example for my business as a marketing strategist, a copywriter. I'm talking a little bit about HR and how their team members are going to feel better and do better as well to provoke some thought, okay? But let's say I was an attorney, okay? And I mostly dealt with tax law. I would also want to talk about tax season, even though I don't necessarily deal with filing taxes, I can still speak to that point. So that's why I'm talking about where you have a specific niche, but you can also speak to adjacent areas in your field to drive the entire thought home because we want to appeal to people in a logical way. So next headline, nature is a catalyst for deep thought. And I know you can tell when you're looking at this blog, a lot of it's chopped up. So big headline right here, regular letters, big headline here. So we call this a H2 headline in WordPress. This is a H3 because it's a little smaller. Again, I want it to be something that where people look at it with their eyes, they're not frustrated. They're not like, oh my gosh, I'm looking at a big block of text. They look at it and say, okay, this is something I can read. I'm getting information out of this. I see the headlines. I can decide if I want to continue reading, okay? So nature is a catalyst for deep thought. One of the most effective ways to cultivate deep thought is by immersing oneself in nature. Nature has a way of quieting the mind, stimulating the senses, and providing a serene background for introspection. Here are a few ways in which nature can serve as a catalyst for deep thought. So solitude and reflection, inspiration and creativity, mindfulness and presence, okay? So these are just simple bullet points. I didn't leave them as bullet points. I wanted to actually write just a short synopsis under them, okay? So I'll go through those real quick as well. Nature offers a sanctuary away from the constant noise and distractions. Whether it's a quiet hike in the mountains or a peaceful retreat by the ocean, spending time alone in nature provides an opportunity for solitude and reflection away from the demands and pressures of the business world. One can engage in deep thought, allowing ideas to flow and insights to emerge. Inspiration and creativity. Nature has long been a source of inspiration for artists, writers, and innovators. Again, so this is pinpointing an ideal client that values creativity, okay? The only people that are going to align with this, the only CEOs that align with this are those who align with creativity. That's another principle to use when you're writing your copy and when you're writing your client's copy. What are the values that you have? What are the values that your client has that the audience shares with them? Tap into those values. So for my audience, if they're investing in a content writer, they have to value creativity and inspiration. And so I'm going to speak to that. The beauty and complexity of the natural world can spark creative thinking and ignite the imagination, whether it's the intricate patterns of a flower or the vastness of a starry sky. Nature's wonders can inspire new ideas and fresh perspectives. Mindfulness and presence. In nature, one can practice mindfulness and cultivate a deep sense of presence by fully immersing yourself in the sights, sounds, and sensations of the natural environment. The mind becomes focused and attuned to the present moment. This state of mindfulness allows for heightened awareness, clarity of thought, and the ability to tap into one's intuition. connecting to larger systems. Nature reminds us of the interconnectedness of all things. When we observe the intricate web of ecosystems, the cycles of life and death, and the delicate balance of nature, we gain a deeper understanding of the complex and interdependence of our world. This perspective can broaden our thinking and help us see the bigger picture, leading to a more holistic and sustainable business strategy. Cultivating deep thought in nature for business growth. Now that we understand the importance of deep thought and the power of nature as a catalyst, how can we harness these forces to drive business growth? So questions are always going to be engaging. In every single blog, you should be asking the audience questions multiple times. So that's going to prompt them so that they're going to think in their mind, okay, let me think of a few ways. Then they continue to read the blog and see your perspective. Here are a few strategies to consider. Now, this is key with the blog. Up until this point, we're about halfway through the blog. It's a long blog. I typically write blogs that are 1,000 to 1,500 words because short blogs won't drive traffic, okay? But right here, this is where it switches a little bit. I went from almost having like a thesis style, trying to get them to understand my perspective and why I'm talking about this, what they can expect, all of these things. Now I'm switching and it's much more actionable. And that's what I seek to do in every single blog. That's what you should seek to do as well. The first phase of the blog, obviously, powerful headline, have your intro, have a storyline, and then display your unique proposition, okay? So in this blog, it's I think you should be in nature to grow your business. And then I'm telling them why you should be in nature to grow your business, how it can help you. When we get to the second half of the blog, now I'm gonna give them actionable tips, because when they're finished reading the blog, I want them to actually remember it. I want them to remember my website. I want them to have a quick actionable tip they can take with them and implement today, okay? So they could have went after this and been like, hey, I am going to have more retreats in my business, or maybe I'll invest in retreats outside of my business so that I can have some more creativity, right? And so these are some of the actionable steps. They can organize retreats or outdoor workshops for their team members to immerse themselves in nature and engage in deep thought, and provide a conducive environment that encourages reflection, brainstorming, and the sharing of ideas. By stepping away from the office and into nature, they're going to create an atmosphere that fosters creativity, collaboration, innovation. Again, always reminding them what they're getting out of taking this advice. So it's like future storytelling, like dream life storytelling. Hey, if you follow this advice, if you do these retreats and these outdoor workshops, you're going to foster creativity, collaboration, and innovation with your team. Next, we have walking meetings. Instead of conducting meetings indoors, consider taking them outdoors. Walking meetings not only provide the opportunity for physical activity, but also allow for a change of scenery and a break from the usual office environment. Walking side by side in nature can stimulate conversation, encourage open thinking, and lead to more productive discussions. Nature-inspired design. Incorporate elements of nature into your workspace design. Biophilic design principles, such as incorporating natural light, plants, natural materials. These can create a calming and inspiring environment that promotes deep thought. Consider creating dedicated areas for reflection or installing large windows that provide views of nature to encourage moments of contemplation. Encouraging mindfulness. Introduce mindfulness practices into your workplace culture. Encourage employees to take regular breaks to engage in mindfulness exercises such as meditation or mindful walking in nearby green spaces. These practices promote mental clarity, focus, and the ability to engage in deep thought. Embracing a sustainable mindset. Deep thought often leads to a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of your actions and their impact on the environment. Embrace a sustainable mindset in your business practices and consider the long-term consequences of your decisions. And then, of course, every blog has to have a conclusion. And some blogs, I call it the conclusion. And some blogs, I get a little bit more creative and name it something different. But that's basically the outline of a blog, essentially. Every blog, I do it automatically now, but think of it as a template. You're going to have the main powerful headline. You're going to have the intro, pause. You're going to have another headline that's not as powerful as the previous one, but another headline talking about the next point after the intro. This can be where you're talking about a story, remembering a time, introducing data and statistics, right? After that, your next headline can be your next point and why I believe XYZ. why educational firms need XYZ, proving your point additionally with that next paragraph. Then you can switch and get into quick, actionable insights. I almost want my blogs to read like I'm doing a virtual blog workshop where they're literally reading and they're like, oh, I didn't even think about this that way. I didn't even think about that. And so when they read it, they automatically will reach out to that business or reach out to you if it's your portfolio and say, oh, this content is really good. Let me get in touch with this writer. So conclusions are pretty simple. You're just reiterating the intro and the thought economy. Cultivating deep thought is a powerful tool for business growth and innovation. By immersing ourselves in nature, we can tap into the wellspring of creativity, clarity, and insight that resides in us. Nature provides the space, information, inspiration, and perspectives needed to engage in deep thought and develop innovative ideas. As you incorporate these strategies in this blog, you can harness the power of the thought economy and propel your business to new heights. Adjective, propel, or I should say verb, propel. They're going to take their business to a new height. I want the copy to be alive. I want them to see the future of what they're going to be doing. Lastly, the last sentence, embrace the thought economy, immerse yourself in nature, and watch your business thrive, because that's what they want to do. These are CEOs. They want to watch their business thrive. Any questions with this blog before we move on to the next one?
I don't really have any questions. I just wanted to say I like that you call it like the thought economy. I think that's really sharp. I like that.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. Awesome. So now we're gonna go to one that's a bit more technicals. Like I was talking about, I split it up between the blogs that are gonna do well for SEO and more of the storytelling, nurturing people. So now let's go to one that's more technical. And so these are like the heavy marketing tips. It could be that one, but I actually want to go to some of the older ones. And so as you can see, this is literally a writing portfolio. You post on your blog multiple times throughout the years, keep it up, and just have it public. And this is where clients can learn about you. But let's find which blog I want to do. That was a good one. That had a case study. That's a good one. Okay, we'll do that one. And some of these actually what I would do, I haven't done this yet this year because I'm actually merging this site to a different platform, but I would just update this and say how to build an email list with your blog in 2025. Very bland, very much written for the search engine because somebody is going to type in Google how to build an email list with your blog or how to build an email list in 2024, something along those lines. So this is the keyword right here. So I would just like copy and paste that, strategically embed it throughout this content. I'm going to pretend like I wanted to do that. I would copy and paste it as if I'm writing the blog. We have the intro, and then I would put it somewhere in this body or somewhere down here. And that would be the first two instances of me using that keyword. With SEO, you want to use these keyword phrases per 500 words, 1 to 2 times, no more than that, or you're going to get battered and banned by the Google search engine. They'll be like, this is something that's called keyword stuffing, and they won't see it as valuable. They just won't even allow it to rank. So think about that. Put it in the headline once. You can put it not in the intro, but put it like in the paragraph after the intro twice. So that's 1, 2, and then don't put it again if it's a 1,000-word blog until like down here somewhere, okay? If it's a 2,000-word blog, you can double it and have it in the blog 6 times, but per 1,000 words, you really want to have it in there 2 to 3 times at most, mostly near the top. That's why we put it in the headline. And then once after the intro, if I put in the intro, it's going to be too close to the headline. So that's not going to perform well. Just remember that from a search engine optimization standpoint. And we'll actually go through today and write some of those keywords down so you can see how that's done. But how to build an email list with your blog in 2024. Very, I think this is a boring headline, but I was writing for the search engine. It's very much educational content. My writing style, I like to really jazz up everything that I do. I like to add adjectives. I want to add a big storyline. But when we're writing for the search engine, it does have to be simple, straight to the point, because you're writing for people that are actively looking in the search engine, okay? And so this blog totally educational based, not very salesy. This is probably an ideal client that just barely knows about email marketing. They're just now learning about it. And so this is just a free piece of information they find online that builds credibility for my business. You can do this for your business, and you can also do this for your clients. How-to content, remember, is the beginning of the buyer's journey. That means they're new people, they're not ready to buy, they're probably not even problem aware. They're just searching the internet, how to find this recipe, how to build an email list, how to set a finance budget, how to pay your taxes online, right? They're not that serious about making a buying decision yet. And so they're just looking at how-to content like this. But you can still build credibility and educate people along the way. That's where patience comes in. That's something that you should also tell your clients as well. They may ask, why can't all of our blogs just be sales heavy? A lot of it is having the patience to educate people along the way and then letting them come to a buying decision later on down the line. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into this intro. Building an email list is crucial for any blogger looking to grow their audience and engage with their readers. By creating a list of dedicated subscribers, you can keep your readers informed about new content, promotions, and other updates related to your blog. In this post, we're going to discuss tips and best practices for building an email list with your blog. Short intro, straight to the point, great photo right there. Offer an irresistible lead magnet to build your email list. This is a variation of the keyword. Sometimes you can use the exact keyword or you can use a variation. So in this one, I did a variation, build your email list. And I couldn't help it, I had to use powerful language and irresistible lead magnet. I just have to do that. A lead magnet is a valuable incentive that you offer your readers in exchange for their email addresses. This could be a free ebook, a cheat sheet, a checklist, or any other resource relevant to your blog's topic. The key here is that it must be tied to your specific blog and your specific products or